Here we are back at the main landing dashboard, key metrics here, David, and we've looked at customer typology, but I see another new insight.
Yeah, indeed you do, Brad, and we're looking at a different anonymous organization here.
Okay.
I've been given two today to go through because they tell us different stories in different ways. Again, a reminder that if I click our open a new tab here, like magic, it gets bigger and easier to read. And first thing always to look at, left-hand side here, we've moved from that large presenting house into a medium producing house.
Okay.
And interestingly on this, I'm not going to spend a long time here, but customer typology, you'll see that this organization, 26.6% of its bookers are super active. For the medium producing benchmark, it isn't new customers that's the biggest segment, it is super active.
So this particular organization is a bit more in line with the benchmark than the last organization we were looking at.
Indeed, although it's showing that its proportion of super active bookers was lower than the benchmark.
It's a bit lower.
The highest, but it's lower than the benchmark.
Yeah.
But we're not looking at typology now, we're looking at advances. And in terms of the key metric, we've chosen something which might sound a little bit odd in terms of what it is that we are measuring and putting on this key metrics dashboard. And that is focusing on Q3. So if we think about the year in financial quarters, April, May, June, Q1, July, August, September, Q2, October, November, December, Q3. So what this is showing us is for October, November, December, as of midnight last night, what have we got in the bank for shows that are taking place in October, November and December 2020. For this organisation, it's just under £27,000. Mm-hmm. For the average across all medium producing organisations for October, November and December is just over £26,000, meaning that this organisation compared to its peers is very slightly higher.
So why is this important, David? Why are we interested enough in advanced sales for Q3 to put it right here on our key metrics dashboard?
There are lots of reasons why advances are really important. We rely on advances as a sector in terms of cash flow and keeping things running smoothly. Mm-hmm. But I think as things progress and we move from where we are now into recovery, seeing where customer confidence lies is going to be really important. And tracking advances and seeing where customers are booking, which months they're booking for, how far ahead, is going to be really important to us too.
Mm-hmm. I see. Thanks.
So let me click on this box and take you in through to some more detail. So we start off with this organization and comparing this organization for this year compared to where it was at this point last year. So we've got to get our heads around a few difficult concepts here. The first key one being that what we're not seeing here is the number of sales you had in any particular month. We're seeing at this particular moment this year and the comparative moment last year, what sales had you taken? Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is not showing where this organization got to at the end of December or January. It's showing that at this point, that was its advanced sales. Mm-hmm. And this explains the incredible magical disappearance of November. November isn't here for a good reason. And that's not because this organization didn't sell any tickets for November last year. It did. It's just by the 27th of April, it hadn't sold any tickets for November. And therefore, it's not showing up.
Nor has it sold any for November this year.
For this year either, yeah. So when you go into your dashboard, and if there is a magic disappearing month, this is the reason why that's the case. And as soon as we get to the point where you either sell a ticket this year for that month, or we get to a point where last year you had sold a ticket, it will magically reappear.
I see. Okay.
Okay. Now, taking us through, this is giving us a 13-month picture of how we are doing comparatively for each month. So we're starting off here in this quarter, the first quarter of 2020, comparing it to the first quarter of 2019. And you'll see that for this organization, at this point last year, they had £4,784 in the bank for shows that had yet to be staged in April. So basically things that will be on the 27th, the 28th, 29th or 30th. Mm-hmm. This year, they have still got some money in the bank. That show will not be going on. We know that as a fact. So for whatever reason, they've still got some balances in shows that are not going to be happening and that are going to have to be refunded or credited or donated or whatever. Mm-hmm. And that is probably the case for May and for June as well. So whilst we're seeing an advance here, which is feeding into this organization's overall advance, actually those figures are pretty meaningless at this point because it seems unlikely that the show will go on.
Right.
And this is why we have instead focused on quarter three, looking at October, November, and December, because if we look at those 3 months with our fingers severely crossed, maybe we will be seeing some activity in our theatres and concert halls and art centres.
So even though the key metrics dashboard, the summary of this particular insight distills and summarizes advanced revenue for quarter three, when a user is looking at this more detailed view of advanced sales, they will be able to see the revenue compared to last year at this time for other parts in the year beyond, prior to quarter three and well into Q4, right? But we're choosing to focus on quarter three for the purposes of summarizing this particular metric because of where we see the opportunity, where we see organizations focusing, and where we know there is, and you can see it here for this particular organization, normally a pretty high proportion and pretty high volume of revenue that's coming around holiday time.
Absolutely. So this organization traditionally has had a really, really strong advance for around the Christmas period in December and also flowing into January as well. It's clearly got something that is very popular and has sold substantial volumes of tickets for this year, but just nothing like it's done previously. Mm-hmm. We'll compare to the benchmark in a second. If we just go right a little bit, first of all, we can see at the moment, we can see revenues. If we click on this yellow box, we can show ticket sales instead. To the revenues again. And then let's go through the key metrics on the right here. This organization on the 27th of April in 2019 had in the bank just under £605,000 of advance sales. For performances ranging from the 28th of April to whenever it is in the future. Mm-hmm. Could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 3 years in advance, but that's what they had banked up. This year, they've only got 254,000 in the bank going forward. And with that caveat that some of those are for things that we are pretty sure isn't going to happen. But that then shows that for this organization, their advance, the cash that they've got available is around £350,000 less than it was at this point last year. Breaking that down into quarters, in the current quarter, the advance is down by 52.4%. Again, I would say that's probably a dubious figure because it's banking on shows that may well not be going on. But then for the next quarter, so that's for July, August, September, they're down just about 80% compared to last year.
Interesting.
If we click on your organization compared to the benchmark, we get some slightly more heartening reading. So yellow is this organization, green is the average of medium producing theatres. So for this organization, their advance is 254,000 at the moment, compared to their peers of medium producing theatres. Actually, they've got 112,000 pounds more in the bank than those peers. And then looking specifically at those Q3 figures, just drilling down to October, November, December, magically we see that November reappears here, because even though this organisation hasn't sold any tickets for November, its peers have done.
Others have, yeah.
And we're seeing that across that quarter, they are very marginally up on the benchmark in terms of revenue. And again, we can also switch up here into ticket sales. And that shows that, again, actually in terms of ticket sales, probably significantly less than the benchmark, which would suggest that their yields are significantly higher in terms of what they're achieving compared to that.
It also seems that January is the big differentiator here for this particular organization compared to others in the benchmark, right? That sort of
Absolutely.
line in the sand of from one quarter to the next is where overall, this is where they're, being able to show how far ahead they are in their advanced sales, but it's because of their advanced programming, that perhaps more of it extending into January than maybe their peers.
Yeah, absolutely. So this organization, 1,700 tickets sold for January compared to an average of 850. If we look at the revenues, even more, 44,000 compared to an average of about 18,000.
Great.